12, early exit. As the Dodgers piled into the clubhouse after the game against the Phillies, something seemed different. They were looser, more relaxed. They looked like a team, I guess. A few of the players even stopped by Jackie's locker to rehash with him. By the time Aunt and I finished with our post-game chores and all the players were gone, I figured I'd get my suitcase and bring it back to Jackie's place and prepare for my trip back to Louisville. But before I can get my suitcase out of Jackie's locker, Aunt came up to me holding a copy of Amazing Stories. I was reading this article, Aunt said, showing it to me. It says in the future it will be possible to push a button and travel to any moment in history. You think you can actually travel through time? What do you think about that? He was staring at me. Was he on to me, or was he just making conversation? I wasn't sure. That's nuts, I replied nervously. Nobody can travel through time. Oh yeah, Aunt said. How can you be so sure? It's just crazy, that's all. If it's so crazy, Aunt said, reaching into his pocket. Where'd this come from? He pulled out my baseball card and he shoved it towards my face. It was my Ken Griffey Jr. card. The card I had brought along so I could go back home. You went through my stuff? I shouted, trying to grab the Griffey card out of his hands. He snatched it back. You come from the future, didn't you? He whispered, with a mixture of accusation and astonishment in his voice. That's why you wear them funny sneakers. That's why you had to think a minute when I asked you the president's name. I've been watching you. And I finally figured out there's no such player as Ken Griffey Jr., and there's no such team as the Seattle Mariners. Give that back, I yelled. At this point, I didn't care what he knew. I only wanted my card back. He probably would have given it back if I played it cool, but I couldn't. The Griffey card was my ticket home. I knew that if I couldn't get my card back from him, I'd be stuck in 1947 forever. Come get it, black boy, he taunted me, waving the card as he backed around the training table. I ran around the table, but he ran around the other side to keep the table between us. I wanted to punch him so badly, but Jackie warned me not to start any incidents, and I had promised him that there wouldn't be any. I'm going to rip it to pieces, Aunt squealed. I'm going to tear it into little pieces. I couldn't help it. I dove across the training table before he could dart left or right. He held up the card out of my reach. I grabbed his belt and socked him in the face. It felt good. Aunt stepped backwards, feeling his jaw. Ooh, Mr. Robinson wouldn't like that, he teased. He's going to be very mad whenever he finds out you hit a white boy. They might kick him out of baseball. Maybe they won't let colored boys back into the game no more. You folks just can't control your temper, can you? I tried to calm myself. I needed my card back, but I didn't want to do anything that would hurt Jackie's chances. Aunt wouldn't let up. You're pretty uppity, ain't ya? He said. You know what they do to uppity Negroes? They take a rope and swing it over a tree, and they put a noose at the end of a stick, and your head goes in the noose. And then they pull the rope. Get it? I didn't say anything. I wanted to tear his head off. I'm going to do you a favor, Aunt said. I'm not going to tell anybody what happened here, so you got to do me a little favor. What kind of favor? Tell me who's going to win the pennant next year. I don't know, I replied. I wouldn't even tell him if I did know. You're from the future, ain't ya? You ought to know who's going to win the pennant. If I knew for sure who was going to win the pennant, I would have my old man bet all his money on it. All the money he's got on it. I told you, I said in the most serious, sincere voice. I'm not from the future, and I don't know who's going to win the pennant. Then I'm just going to have to rip your bubblegum card in half. Wait, I shouted. He had me over a barrel. Okay, you win. You're right. I come from the future, but I honestly didn't know who's going to win the pennant. I'll tell you what, if I'll tell you all the future presidents of the United States, and your old man can place bets on Election Day. Ant thought it over. Okay, it's a deal, he said, grabbing a pencil and paper. Let's hear him. Eisenhower, I said. The general in war? Yeah. Then President Kennedy, Johnson, Nixon, Ford. Wait a minute, Ant interrupted. Henry Ford is dead. Not Henry Ford, I explained. Gerald Ford. Who is he? Some other guy, I replied. Then there was Carter, Reagan. Reagan, Ant asked. Ronald Reagan? Wait a minute. That guy's an actor. I saw him in that football movie, Knute Rockne, All-American. He ain't even a good actor. You're telling me he's going to be president of the United States? Yeah. Forget about it, Ant said. You're a liar. The deal's off. There was no point of trying to talk him into it. I snatched the Ken Griffey card out of his fingers just as he was about to put it away. Give it back, Ant shouted furiously, advancing on me. I'm going to tell everybody that you attacked me, Blackie, and then they'll have you arrested. Then they'll string you up. Where are your parents? They're going to throw you in an orphanage. Sticks and stones break my bones, I yelled, backing away from him, but names will never hurt me. Fine, Ant said. Then I'll use sticks and stones. He grabbed a bat from the rack and swung it at my head. I backed away. I felt the air of the bat whistle in front of my nose. This kid was crazy. The clubhouse door was behind me. Ant brought the bat back to take another swing at my head. I reached for the knob and pulled the door open, ducking my head behind it. The bat crashed into the door. I slammed it shut behind me. There was no way to get to Jackie's locker. There was no way to get to Jackie's locker to get my suitcase. I'd have to come back for it later. I was going to have to make a run for it. I ran down the corridor until I finally saw the first marked exit. It was locked. By that time, Ant was out of the clubhouse running after me. Luckily, I had with the bat. I made a dash for the next exit sign. Luckily, it was open. It led out of Ebbets Field into the streets of Brooklyn. I'm gonna get you, Ant shouted. Not if I could help it. I ran up Bedford Avenue. Some kids had strung a volleyball net up across the street, and it nearly took my head off running into it. 4 or 5 boys were playing punch ball in the street, and I ran past their game. A colored boy stole my watch, Ant shouted. Stole his watch? I wasn't even carrying a watch. It didn't matter. The kid dropped their balls and took after me. They were pretty fast, but I was running for my life. The fastest one was a couple paces behind me. When I passed the Carroll Street sign, "Hey, kids, stop!" It was a policeman. I wasn't about to stop now. The cop took off after me on foot, blowing a whistle. People in the street stopped what they were doing and stared at me. No colored boy runs that fast that didn't steal something, somebody yelled. Up ahead, I saw a trolley clanking around the intersection of Bedford Avenue and Eastern Parkway. The motorman couldn't hear the commotion. He was working the 2 levers to turn the corner with a grunt and a squeal. A shower of sparks shot off the wheels against the rails. A few more sparks flew off the top of the trolley, where a wire drew electricity down from some unseen power source. I left the trolley and climbed over the seats that weren't occupied by passengers. I jumped off the other side into the street. So that's why they call them the Dodgers, I thought. The streets of Brooklyn were so clogged with trolleys that you had to be a Dodger to survive. I turned around as I ran down Eastern Parkway. The cop was still fumbling to get past the trolley. I saw a sign that said Brooklyn Botanical Garden, and I ducked inside. My chest was heaving, my heart pounding. I heard a siren, and it sounded like it was heading in my direction. For all I knew, the entire Brooklyn Police Department was after me. There wasn't a lot of choices. I found a shady tree next to some colorful flowers. I lay down on the grass beneath it. I clutched my Ken Griffey card to my chest. All I wanted was to go back home. In a few seconds, the tingling sensation was on my fingertips. That was the last thing I remembered before losing consciousness.